Back in New York, live, back from Florida. Remember, we were in Florida for about 2.5 weeks, I would say. Two.
And with a one-night pit stop in Georgia.
Yeah, we snuck in and snuck out. We didn't let Fanny the Ho know we were nearby, did we? Because maybe she would have tried to violate me on my probation for breathing too much or exhaling too much carbon, or who knows, one of the things which would have been more criminal than what she actually charged me with. Well, I mean, of course, this weekend was, well, it contained the most important day of the year, Easter Sunday, which was, I would say, I don't like to say things like this because, look, I'm not a minister, I'm not a priest, I'm not a rabbi, I'm not a, I'm not I'm not a religious person in this. I am, but I'm not a religious person in the sense of very rigid uh, uh, adherence to all the rules and regulations of the religion. Uh, I am a spiritual person, and I do consider myself, in my own way, a religious. I'm a Roman Catholic, and I believe in God, and I believe in Jesus Christ fiercely. Not just a little bit. I believe in Jesus Christ, like I believe in the United States. I mean, it's you see what I'll do when I believe in the United States, right? Um, but I don't. I couldn't say that you should mistake my views for what are the teachings of the Catholic Church, which I am by birth and everything else, or even some of the other churches where I have substantial, agreement. I'm very comfortable with the teachings of most of the Christian churches. Um, but they don't stand for me. I don't stand for them because I'm not that orthodox. However, that's why I don't like to make pronouncements like this. But I really do feel that if you are spiritual and you are religious, even in your way, I mean, I think too many of us are shy. Like, everybody went like sheep to the slaughter when they said during the pandemic, no Easter, no Jewish high holidays. I mean, gosh, we should have said, this is exactly when we need the high holidays. This is exactly when we need Easter and Good Friday and Holy Thursday, where you're frightening the living daylights out of us, like the world's going to come to an end. Maybe we should take a little bit of a risk and communicate with somebody a heck of a lot more important than you, government, God. But okay, I think those of us who maybe don't consider ourselves, fathers of the church, we still believe, and we believe strongly. And to me, it's maybe the most critical thing that has gone wrong in this country is ripping God out of it. Because it has had the impact that many theologians always thought you would have if you ripped God out. They've ripped out morality with it. And it is, without any doubt, part of all the many points that come together when you say, "Oh, gee, this happened. Isn't that terrible? That happened. Is terrible." They're teaching children to doubt their gender in school. They're having children take hormones without telling parents. They're having children get mutilated without telling their parents. They're throwing parents out of school board meetings. They're even prosecuting parents for being disruptive at school board meetings. They had made up some kind of a hit list involving Catholics who like Latin masses, and that's just one area. Biden put together a task force to limit free speech. He actually was going to have a commissar who did it, and that was, and it clearly is that. I mean, this whole disinformation is what he says is not true.
Yeah.
So it's disinformation to say that he was taking money from the Chinese, even though we have the checks. I mean, but it's disinformation. it's without any doubt, a, a fascist stunt that's going on. So this weekend, what the White House and the Biden administration is a sacrilege to have this transgender celebration on Easter Sunday. Come on, show a little respect. I mean, Catholics and traditional Christians are entitled to their viewpoint. It doesn't make them haters if they believe that that well, if they believe what has been science for hundreds of years, which is that the very strong, legitimate desire to change your gender from what your sex is indicates a form of, I don't know if you call it mental disturbance, mental illness, dysmorphia, something that should be treated. Now, whether that's correct or not, that's for scientists to battle out. But no one has really, no one has disproven all those years of science. On the other hand, it is a moral issue for people with regard to the rules that certain religions have with regard to sex. That God created man and women to procreate. That the main purpose of sex is to procreate, and that major distortions of that that lead in the direction of a childless world, which is where we're headed, can be sinful and immoral. People have a right to believe that. That isn't hate. That's disagreement. It's like saying uh, Ted roots for the Detroit Tigers and I root for the New York Yankees. And if he tries to, he can't say, well, I'm being hateful and horrible to him and making his life miserable because I don't root for the Detroit Tigers any more than I can. We have a right to disagree, you know. And somebody who was born with male genitalia, who somehow all of a sudden thinks they want to be female, you got to admit that there's a certain rationality where some people might think that that's a problem, an issue. Doesn't make you evil. It doesn't make you whatever, but people have issues, all kinds of issues that don't make them evil. It makes them human and difficult, having difficulties in becoming attuned to the reality of life. So that was one thing. I'm going to tell you, the one that got me even more upset, really angry, was Jill Biden deciding that you couldn't put religious markings, sayings, or symbols on Easter eggs. Do you have any idea where she thinks she gets the authority to do that? I mean, she does represent the government at the Easter egg thing. The First Amendment to the Constitution is a very strict prohibition that runs against the government. As I think we've all learned, those prohibitions run against the government to protect our rights. And we interpret a lot of those rights, and some are ambiguous. Free exercise of religion is not ambiguous, stepmother in chief. It says free exercise of religion. And it doesn't allow you, even if you were elected, to tell people that they can't put down religious markings, a cross, a little drawing of the baby Jesus, a little drawing of the risen Christ. That is, after all, the day you're celebrating. It's not, it didn't begin with Easter eggs. Is there something wrong with you, Jill? I mean, you do display at times an extraordinary, wicked, nasty streak, like what you did to that grandchild, which really, it's hard to understand someone who would, particularly since you're the stepmother, the one on the outside. I mean, I've been in that position, and you got to go out of your way to be loving and caring, and you went out of your way to be vicious. Take away the we have 7 grandchildren, but let's just have 6 stockings for a few years. I mean, these are things that get recorded, and the kid's going to know that if the kid doesn't know it already. And it took forever for your evil husband to recognize that child. He did it begrudgingly once and never mentioned it again. So, excuse me if I've named you, stepmother in chief, although I hate the connotations of stepmother, because there are so many women who make excellent and wonderful mothers in that role. And there are some that don't, just like there's some terrible mothers. But I'm just going to go back to just for the purposes of this campaign, because I can't stand you Bidens, and I have to have names for you in order to deal with the anger that I have. I mean, you got to know what your husband's doing. I mean, whether he's the biggest crook that ever invaded the White House or not, or you ever bothered to ask where all that money came from years of being a senator. I mean, the guy's got property where he's got a net worth of 20, 30 million, and he's never earned more than only recently a couple 100,000. And I don't think he's got the brain to be much of an investor. And if he did, he'd probably have been in jail well, I guess they don't go to jail for insider trading, do they? They don't go to jail for anything. I mean, you remind me of the mafia wives. They got all this money. The husband hangs around with a bunch of bums. I mean, he hangs around with a bunch of bums that don't make any money. They are bums, and look at all the people that get killed. That cabinet of his has got one liar after another, one bum after another. It's got little Petey, who doesn't seem to know whether our bridges are going to stand or fall. Doesn't seem to care if a part of our country gets exposed to toxic fumes in a catastrophic attack, and shows up, when he's good and ready, and then has a tremendous cargo problem, which he doesn't resolve at all, and stays on his paternity leave. These are the kinds of people he has. Or Stinking Blinken, who probably is the guy who organized a hit on Trump and me about being Russian agents. That was totally false, totally untrue. And was a way to fix the 2020 election. That's who he surrounds himself with. And they don't get much better after that. And then those 2 presidents that he was with the other night, that was really quite a thing. I mean, Epstein's best friend on one side, and the guy who gave hundreds of millions in cash to the Ayatollah in cash. Just so he hangs around with. So we're gonna go into this a little bit later, because I want to finish this segment on a different note. Because aside from Easter itself, probably one of the most important things that happened this weekend was the wonderful, very, very sad, but very beautiful eulogy that was given by the widow of police officer, now detective, Jonathan Diller. I had the honor of talking to her twice. And I say that, really say that very truthfully. And her brother, with whom I am enormously impressed. I want you to go back to his original, right off the cuff interview with the New York Post And I'm not going to go through the whole part because this is the part that made me cry when he said, I'm going to take care of the little boy forever. He said, John or Jonathan, I could never replace you as a father. No one could, but I am going to be there for your boy forever. To me, one of the things that I'm left with after all of the funerals that I went to, not only on September 11, but the 100 or more that I did as mayor, is the children, the children, the children, the children. It, maybe it goes back to being a young man, seeing John Kennedy standing there all by himself and the whole nation saying, gosh, he's going to be without a father forever. And what a father. I mean, whatever you think of Kennedy, quite a man, right? I mean, wow. He achieved one of the greatest offices in the world, and he'd have been a good father to have. A war hero, a guy who loved his country. I mean, we didn't start having presidents that didn't love America. We don't. I mean, it's only two out of the last three that didn't love America. I mean, Biden certainly doesn't love America. He says we're all racist. So how could he love us? Unless he thinks we're all like Harry Bird, his friend. I said this a long time ago about Obama, and everybody got angry, but everybody agrees with me now. He sure as hell doesn't love America. His wife doesn't. I mean, we didn't do anything good until we elected him. That's a long time to do things bad. But Kennedy loved America. So did Epstein's friend, by the way. I don't put him in that category of. I mean, he sure had his problems, but you could tell when he spoke that he loved this country. But now we got a Democratic Party that has this strain of not only isn't America first, it's America last. It's America attack first. What they're doing with criminals is almost incomprehensible. Now, when we play the eulogy, when we come back, I want to put it in a setting for you. She can talk about two police officers that were killed 2 years ago with terrible, terrible, terrible killing. And what she's also going to talk about is you should know that around 2019, and actually starting before that, with the influence of de Blasio and Cuomo and the left wingers, the communists in the New York Assembly, led by a gentleman named Carl Hastie, we changed all kinds of laws to make it enormously attractive to be a criminal in New York. So I can say without fear of contradiction that Detective Diller would be alive if he were living in probably at least 35 different states, maybe 40, that have clear laws that have kept his killer in jail. It may even be more than that. And New York is the only state that doesn't allow a judge to hold someone without bail based on dangerousness. The only one. But it also has done away with 3 strikes and you're out, the career criminal bill. And the epicenter of it were these bills that were passed in 2019, in which they no longer provided for bail. They reduced all of the penalties. They reduced all of the enhancements, which included the career criminal enhancements. And they began a process of letting people out of prison. So since 2019, 27 cop killers have been released as a result of Hastie and Cuomo's action. Did you get that? 27 cop killers have been released. And New York has been in a spiral of crime. And police officers getting attacked. I think this year it's up 24%. Over the period of time, stabbings of police officers are up 70%. I mean, there's no doubt that at least for police, well, for all of us, this is a much more dangerous city than the city that I and Michael Bloomberg left to the communists. And these police officers died 2 years ago. And in her beautiful voice and in her sadness, she cries out, "For what have you done since then?" And the answer is nothing but make it worse. Because since then, we got Bragg, who on his own just puts people out, and Hochul, who just let a couple of cop killers go free, and Adams, who promises to do things and never does them. And also, helped us by inviting 160,000 illegal aliens into our city, none of whom are really vetted. We don't know who they are. And if anybody knows who they are, it's the illegal, horrible cartels. So, you'd have to say, not only have they not done anything, things have gotten worse. And in what is a true irony, since the day that Mrs. Diller said that, things have gotten even worse, which I will explain to you when we come back. Trump is winning 86-10 over Haley. She's on the ballot.
The new year, we're having the biggest sale ever on overstock clearance and brand new products. For example, save 60% on our Goose Down comforters, the best comforters ever. They go perfectly with our MyPillow bed sheets and duvet covers. Save 25% on our brand new kitchen towels. They're made with the same technology as our famous My Towels. Our initial quantities are extremely low, so get them now before they go. Our seasonal flannel sheets are finally in. You save up to 50% and they sell out fast every year, so order now. They're truly the best flannel sheets you'll ever sleep on. Or save up to 80% on all our clearance items. And this is where it gets even better. For a limited time, your entire order ships absolutely free. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use that promo code to get deep discounts on all MyPillow products. And for a limited time, your order ships absolutely free.
And
So which commercial was that? I wasn't watching the commercials.
MyPillow.
Well, okay. I'm going to take a little time for Mike. Because last night I had a wonderful night's sleep on my MyPillow. Then I've been having trouble sleeping. I'm going to show you what it is. It's what happened with this police officer. I get up in the middle of the night thinking about it. I don't know how to explain this to you the right way. I'm not sure I understand it enough to explain it. But I believe the reason I was so successful in what I did as mayor, because I really believed it. It wasn't even this much of a show. And when I made mistakes, I would either drive my staff crazy and going over them, or sometimes after a while, I realized that it really wasn't fair to them, because maybe I was overdoing it. So I had a little place where I went in Gracie Mansion all by myself. And that's how I got used to all these different pens and stuff. And I used to write out other ways I could have done it that maybe would have avoided that's how I changed the Administration for Children's Services. And well, in any event, this one hit me really hard. Part of it, I think, was the original picture of that wonderful officer with his son, which maybe is the first thing I saw right after I was informed of the killing. Maybe it was the brother-in-law's statement, which was a version of what we're going to hear from Mrs. Diller, more aggressive, as you would expect the police officers to be, probably more like I would have said it. because she's a much more elegant person than I think we are, probably. And then, of course, there was a practical thing. I'm one of the people that knows without any doubt this didn't have to happen. And I know there's no bragging, it's no exaggeration. If I were mayor, it would not have happened. There are things that could have happened if I were mayor that have happened that I can't prevent everything. But this was in my wheelhouse. I mean, this was right in the career criminal program that I started working on in 1979 with Professor James Q. Wilson. You know, a lot of people take credit for the stuff that I did. And many of them deserve it and deserve to share it. Some of them don't. But this was a lifetime of thinking, writing, working. The career criminal, the Comstat program. When I used to put out crime statistics 10 years earlier, I used to think, what's the use of these crime statistics? My gosh, the year is over. Why don't we have these things beforehand and use them as the best that we can get as predictors of crime, where, when, how? So this hit me really hard because I know deep inside here it didn't have to happen. It happened. And when they say, oh, don't get politics involved in the wake and the funeral. If it weren't for politics, there would be no wake and funeral. Almost impossible not to, unless you want it to happen again. It's like saying, you know, keep your mouth shut about the stolen election. Well, yeah, okay. So now we can become Venezuela if we do that. So I think that's why it hit me as hard as it did. And because in that 2-year period that this wonderful lady is now going to outline, it had been real easy to do this, particularly with a new mayor who was a police officer. I don't know how he can live with himself. But let's listen to her. This was at the church, St. Rose of Lima Church in Massapequa, New York. And it was on Saturday, which was Holy Saturday in the Catholic tradition. And it was said during, it was the last eulogy, and some beautiful ones, really. Unfortunately, not from the mayor. It was a narcissistic speech about himself. Quite a beautiful one from the police commissioner, Commissioner Caban. I congratulate you for it. But let's listen to this exceptional woman who's a nurse and whose life has been irreparably crushed as a result.
How long I have to wait to see Jonathan again. When the doors to heaven open for me one day, I hope to see Jonathan standing there looking at me just like he did on our wedding day. My husband died a hero, but he also lived as one. Our world will never be the same, but I know I speak for everyone when I say I could not be more proud of him. It's been 2 years and 2 months since Detective Rivera and Detective Mora made the ultimate sacrifice, just like my husband, Jonathan Diller. Dominique Rivera stood in front of all the elected officials present today pleading for change. That change never came, and now my son will grow up without his father. I will grow old without my husband, and his parents have to say goodbye to their child. How many more police officers and how many more families need to make the ultimate sacrifice before we start protecting them? I don't wish this kind of pain on anyone. Jonathan lived his life doing good for people, and it's now time for people to do good for all the officers he represents.
Well, I mean, yes, you're right. They did do nothing. We were waiting for this to happen. It happened. There were so many entreaties, so many editorials. My gosh, I mean, the New York Post alone, you saw the New York Post there. New York Post alone, I don't know how many editorials they wrote, directed to Adams, directed to Hochul, directed to the legislature. directed to the crazy, evil Democrats, saying this is, you don't change this, and we're going to start losing innocent people. I mean, we have enough of a problem getting cops in this city. Yeah, and then we forget and lie about things. I mean, we defunded the police in 2020. We took $1 billion out. We've never refunded it. Probably hard to get accurate statistics. Bernie and I were trying to get them over the weekend. Not the weekend. I think of the weekend as last week leading up to this. The last 2 days that we were in Georgia before we came to New York, we were trying to get statistics on exactly what is the police department right now. So when I left, let's say September 11, around that time, it was 40 to 41,000, and that was the largest that I think that's the largest it ever was. I think, I'm not sure. I really don't know what it was years and years ago. And I would say that in the last 2 years that I was mayor, I could have been persuaded, as Bloomberg was, because Bloomberg took the police department down a bit. Bloomberg left a police department of about 36,000. I probably could have been persuaded to reduce it a bit. Although, I almost felt like you could never have too many police. You can find plenty of things for them to do. Like I used them, for example, to help make sure that children who were too poor were covered by Child Health Plus. We had 300 children that nobody could find that had to be covered in the last year that I was mayor, and I wanted to get it done because I thought I'd be succeeded by a Democrat, and Democrats can't do a damn thing. I mean, whether you believe me or not, they shouldn't really be allowed to run governments because they're too damn inefficient. And I figured that would get all fouled up. I mean, think about this. Remember when Obama put out Obamacare and the computers went down? That is a typical Democrat thing. Or like, Biden. He doesn't know where he is. He shows up late all the time. They're not business people. And they're not military people largely. Or if they are, they're the laziest ones. And they're just incompetent. I think the ideology, the liberal ideology, is so fanciful. It has them so far removed from reality that it gets silly. It becomes silly. But in any event, I thought we better get it done. I used the cops and the firefighters to do it. So the thing that has to be done now so this doesn't happen in the future is the law has to be changed so that people like, just to go over this again, the two people involved in this were arraigned today. They were brought to court today or yesterday. And the court could only hold about 200 people. There were 200 cops there. And they didn't do anything untoward. But boy, was it frightening looking. Those two guys looked, when you could see the little picture of them, they looked like they were having trouble not doing bowel movements. And the cops look like, you can imagine what they look like when Guy Rivera and Lindy Jones came out together. 48 crimes, mostly felonies and mostly violent ones. Lindy Jones is known as Killer. That's really nice, right? Belongs to a gang. And he is saying that that he was a hitchhiker, which I kind of find hard to believe since he was driving the car. Right. Here's the hitchhiker, Ted. I'm hitchhiking.
Yeah.
You pick me up, and I say, "Oh, give me the wheel."
Yeah. How many?
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Hey, maybe
and this other guy, Rivera, had a knife up his backside. So if just think about this, when KJP, who gets everything wrong or lies, said this was because of gun control. It kills him with a knife. That's what it was there for. He used, now I had it wrong originally, because when these first came out, it sounded like a 9mm was used. Actually, the 9mm was recovered in the car, in the glove compartment of the car, and the shooting was done with a different gun. But that gun was taken away by Officer Diller before he died. So in his last acts, he was acting like a hero police officer. He got shot below his, in the groin, I would imagine, or the lower stomach, and shot so that it killed him. And yet he was able to reach for the gun that was used by Rivera and pull it away from him, which prevented Rivera from having an opportunity to shoot his partner, who then was able to shoot Rivera, as well as apprehend Lindy Jones' killer. So they were both arraigned today. Needless to say, this was in Queens, not the same as Bragg's communist office funded by Soros. I think the Bragg candidate in Queens lost. So these people they're not going out on bail. But you should know that both of them were out, and both of them should have been in. And one of them should have been in for a good long time actually both of them maybe as a career criminal. I haven't looked at Killer's record as much as I have Rivera's. Rivera spent 5 years in state prison. Had another stretch in state prison. And as I said, the police officer grabbed Rivera's gun while the accused killer was in the midst of a life and death fight for the murder weapon with Diller's sergeant partner. On the other hand, it was a beautiful tribute to him. I don't know how many police officers were there. If you told me 20,000, I wouldn't dispute it. It was a Massapequa probably has a population of only about 40,000. So, I mean, it was filled with police officers. And as Dr. Maria pointed out, she was so impressed with how wonderfully friendly the people were and nice. They all had little fruit stands, water stands. It wasn't that hot, thank goodness, but it was a long time. Some people said an hour and a half to 2 hours of standing, and still. So people were, people needed water and help, and they were all different ages, like me. So I don't know what's going to happen here, but I just don't see these Democrats making any changes because Biden won't let them do it. It's an admission that he's been the creator of a massive crime wave, which he has. So I think people are going to continue to die until we get rid of the bomb. And then there are certain things here that I am on this crime thing. I'm hopeful this can be turned around pretty darn quickly. I think the border can be turned around pretty quickly. What's going to be a real problem is deporting the 8 to 12 million. We don't know who they are, who are in the United States. The war in Israel, we're not paying attention to, and thank goodness Bibi's not paying attention to our demented president, who wants him to do a ceasefire during Ramadan, because, oh gosh, they're so peaceful during Ramadan. That's when they kill everybody. The Bibi basically just paid no attention to him. and they have not done their final attack on Rafah, southern portion, right? Which I really, far be it for me to contradict Bibi, who's a good friend and who I admire greatly. I really think he should have taken President Trump's advice of a week and a half ago. Do it quick before they surround you, Bibi, because they're all after you. I mean, and they're turning the American people against it. And now there could be reasons I don't know about, but if there aren't, I would just go in and get Rafah over with and take the consequences. And there won't be that many. What he is doing, however, is he's doing a great job in the north, and he's doing our dirty work for us. You know, the Iranians are using their proxies to bomb our places. They've killed some of our people. Of course, our response was basically the Clinton hit empty fields. That helped, unfortunately, I think, to create 9/11. But over the last 3 or 4 days, they've had some heavy hits in the north without any reluctance about going into Syria and into Lebanon. They took out Mohammed Reza Zahadi, and if you followed the Iraq War, you'll remember him. He has been for quite some time a major Iranian. I like to call them warlords. Killed an awful lot of Americans, and they hit a district called the Mazeh district with an Israeli missile in Damascus, and took him and all of his terrorist animals out. He had been sanctioned way back in 2010 for serving as a liaison with Hezbollah terrorists and smuggling weapons into Lebanon. And he was there to do exactly that, to coordinate and to help the Hamas animals in this war. And this is a guy that we should have taken out to show Iran, stop bombing our facilities. Also on Friday, they killed Ali Abed Aksan Naim, who was the deputy commander of the Hezbollah rocket and missile unit in Lebanon. Now, this is another important one because this is the guy that's been bombing northern Israel, where there's quite a bit of a war going on that Bibi is keeping under wraps, but doing a good job of beating the living daylights out of Hezbollah. And according to intelligence, a lot of the Iranians are going back to Iran. They don't seem to be terribly happy about remaining in Syria and Lebanon because the Israelis are doing what we should be doing, putting bombs on their head. But we don't have a president, and that's worth anything, right? Right. So just to finish up on the funeral, because Ted was there with me. It was beautiful in the long run. I think it will do spiritually. It will do a lot of good for the family. And I think, for the young boy, because I've talked to these children 20 years later and 25 years later, they remember they don't remember, they're told about, and they can see all of the soldiers, the police officers that showed up for their loved one. And my goodness, I mean, I think you're looking at, are they looking at Pete King? Yeah, my pal Pete King. He never missed one. He never missed one out on Long Island on 9/11. That guy, Pete King, right there. Never missed one. That's a real patriot. There's Bernie Carrick right there. I don't know if you see my friend Sid, who I'm talking to right now. Sid, who is on in the morning on WABC, and is also quite a patriot. He's the guy that yelled out during fights. Oh, I love that guy. He yelled out, "Who says when?"
Says who?
Says who? Says who? When Biden said that 30,000 have been killed, accepting the Hamas numbers as if, they're gospel, right? Now, there's a picture. That's an interesting picture. Ted here accuses me of looking at looking at that unbelievably awful attorney general that we have, Letitia James, like giving her a dirty look. I actually wasn't. I tried not to look at her. I was actually looking to see how long the lines.
Yeah, no, I know what you were doing.
How many blocks the lines. I could see better that way.
Yeah,
than I could the other way, and I was interested. I used to be when I went as the mayor. How many showed up? And
over a mile long.
Pardon me?
Over a mile.
Mile long. I mean, that's pretty much all of Massapequa.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Remember when we went out to Massapequa Park? Yep.
Months ago.
Yeah.
And unfortunate serial killer.
Well, thank you, BB, for doing our dirty work for us. And when we have a president again, maybe we'll do some of your dirty work for you. Right? That's the way it should go with friends. Well, we'll be back very, very shortly. The foundation delivers on its promise to do good and never forget the sacrifices America's greatest heroes have made for us. Heroes who risked their lives to keep our communities and our country safe. Heroes like United States Marine Corps Captain and pilot John Jeremy Sachs. Captain Sachs sustained fatal injuries when his military aircraft crashed during training, killing him and 5 other service members. He's remembered by loved ones as courageous, brilliant, and devoted to his career, family, and friends. John is survived by his wife, Amber, who gave birth to their second daughter 3 months after his death. Tunnel to Towers paid the mortgage on the family home for Amber and their 2 daughters. The foundation has helped over 1,000 military and first responder families navigate the worst of times by removing the burden of a mortgage payment. Our nation's heroes and their families need your help now more than ever. Donate $11 a month to Tunnel to Towers at T2T.org. T2T.org. That's T, the number 2T.org. T2T.org. Please donate now.
And we're back.
Well, we're welcoming you all back, and we're going to suggest that this would be a good time to take your balance of nature pills. Here's your fruits. Here's your veggies. 2 fruits,
2 vegetables.
2 vegetables in the morning, 2 fruits, 2 vegetables at night, and you'll have the energy that Rudy Giuliani has.
And use that promo code Rudy for huge savings.
If you use the promo code, they're even more energetic.
And you'll want.
They're really more energetic for me because they help make sure that I can eat. They're trying to destroy me, right? Not going to do it, but they're trying.
They're the damnedest.
So can we watch the eloquent? In addition to the first stepmother telling the children that they couldn't put religious markings on the eggs, and I don't know if that applied to all things at the White House. Like I remember getting tickets for people to the egg roll. First of all,
it's a popular event in DC. That's a popular event at the White House.
Oh, but did you see how few people were there?
That you pointed that out.
Oh man, I remember that. I mean,
tough ticket to get for
I remember one of the egg roll ones. I had to go in and see him. Jay and I had to go see him early. It was hard getting in because we tried very hard to see him early in the morning, and then in the residence at night. So we didn't bother him during the day.
Yeah.
But then sometimes it wasn't always possible to do that. So sometimes we'd have to come in. We'd always try to keep it to a minimum. But I do remember one of the egg roll things. I came in, and the people I'd take pictures with me, and it was
Even at the White House.
here I am.
Even at
I'm
the White House.
I was saying I'm here in my capacity as a lawyer. I'm not sure I should take pictures.
Oh yeah.
I said when I come out, I will. 'Cause I don't want to keep them waiting.
Yeah.
The president of the United States
Sitting.
has a few other things to do other than wait for me to take pictures.
Yeah.
So I put it off, and when I came out there, I mean, it seemed like there were even more people. But it was, I would say, just a quick look. That was a very small crowd.
Yeah.
But who the hell would want to go to his egg roll?
Miserable egg. Nobody wants to go.
Probably the ones who don't know are probably worried they're going to get arrested by the J6 task force.
Yeah.
And put in the gulag if they.
Any religious symbols on these eggs?
Yeah, like the ones who like Latin masses who are being targeted as terrorists. See, if we're targeting Catholics who like Latin masses as terrorists, we got to be missing a lot of terrorists.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Did you ever think how many FBI agents we wasted on J6? And if we, God forbid, get an attack, how that will probably have played into it. So shall we listen? Should we listen to the president's eloquent discussion of the bunnies yes, the Easter bunnies, but somehow the nature of the bunnies. He can't even get that right.
And by the way, say hello to oyster bunnies. Come on up, bunnies. Get up here so they can see you. Come on, get in there. Pretty big.
Oh, and we're back.
He does sound drunk, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Well, he said oyster bunnies. But it isn't just even that. It's if you play, I don't want to play the whole thing. It's too waste up. I used to be a bartender way back. And I'm impatient with drunken people. And the minute I hear people talking like that, I mean, it isn't always drunk. I mean, you can be like that if you're demented.
Well, that's exactly the.
But
yeah.
I mean, but it is very similar.
It's clearly something. Yeah.
Now you listen to his State of the Union speech. Where
Yeah, he was. Yeah.
Trump. And now he's the oyster bunnies.
There's something going on there.
We've got the oyster bunnies this way. And I remember going over that bridge many times on the train.
There's something going on, right?
Really do want to ask him, what kind of view do you get on that bridge going over it on a train, and see if he extends his lies like he always does. Do we have, and can we find RFK Jr. Making a comparison? The Democrats are hanging a lot on, you can't vote for Trump because he will deny democracy. He will destroy democracy. What they don't add to it is, and we're going to try to prevent that by refusing to allow him on the ballot. So we don't have a democratic election. And we are going to do what our good friend Maduro did in Venezuela. We're going to kick him off the ballot so we can have a non-democratic election. It is so. How are people? Could all of you rise up as one and just send texts in when I say this? When the Democrats say that Trump is going to destroy democracy if he's elected, and they are doing everything they can to not give the American people a chance to vote for the person that somewhere between 45 and 55% of the American people say they want to be president, and that isn't destroying democracy? Do you all get it? It's been like this from the beginning, and frustrating for his lawyer. This has been the biggest and most evil. I wouldn't say the most successful because we've uncovered it now, but for a while it was very, very manipulative. Exercise of projection ever. If you don't understand projection now, you'll never understand it. Projection is when you accuse someone of doing what you're doing. And they do it as for a living. Russian collusion. In fact, it was even presented to me that way 5 years ago. We're going to bring you evidence that there wasn't Russian collusion, but Ukrainian collusion by Hillary. Or Trump, they tried to impeach him for the conversation with the president of Ukraine in which he offered a quid pro quo, which amounts to a bribe. And then when the transcript was released, there was no quid pro quo. But then if you go back to the Biden video and his conversation with Poroshenko, there was about as clear a quid pro quo as ever existed. The quid was the $1 billion loan guarantee, and the quo was get rid of the prosecutor that was prosecuting Biden's son and the multi-billionaire organized crime oligarch who paid them millions and millions of dollars to get the case fixed. Because by getting that case fixed, he walked away with somewhere around $40 billion. So it was well worth it for him to pay and spread around big bribes, including to the vice president of the United States. I mean, I had that case figured out 5 years ago, and I guarantee you I would have convicted him. I don't have any doubt in the world. I had more evidence in that case back then, before the hard drive, than I think I ever had in any case. The cases they're bringing against him, they are so transparent. Again, I hope you step back and you realize how when they're talking about Trump will destroy democracy, and they mean by that the rule of law and what goes along with them. And democracy all by itself isn't very much. It's the will of the majority, and the will of the majority can be horrible. They selected Hitler. They actually did select Hitler. I'm not even sure they fixed the election to do that. I don't know if we selected Biden, but they really did select Hitler. I don't know if they selected Stalin or that was a rigged election or not, but he was theoretically elected. And some of these guys got elected. I think, for example, probably in the first election, Maduro was elected. The second one, I think, was fixed. But you remember, there's a little connection there. So the statement that I'd like to see if we could get is the RFK Jr. statement, because this is, I think, the first Democrat that's made this observation, and it's quite a Democrat to have made it. I mean, this man is a little bit more than just a Democrat.
Have you met RFK Jr.?
Oh, yeah, I have, sure. Yes.
Yeah. Did you support, was that his father, RFK? Did you support RFK when he ran in 1968?
Honestly, enthusiastic supporter of Senator Kennedy, yeah. And a lot of it was his role as a prosecutor. Remember, he was going after the Teamsters Union that I eventually...
So they were anti-mob.
President Bush, who was the only one to defend me when I brought that case, said that Rudy Giuliani completed the work begun by Robert Kennedy.
When he said that?
Mm-hmm.
Is that on the record somewhere?
Yeah, it's on the record.
I got to find that.
And it's one of the reasons I love President Bush, 41. When people say nice things about you, I'm like a little dog. I think we all are, right? Particularly since I was under attack by 130 members of Congress that want to be fired for bringing the case against the Teamsters. Mostly
Really?
Yeah. Most
that's interesting.
The Republicans really were angry at me because we lost our one union. and the Democrats figured they might as well condemn me because maybe they could get them back on the Democrat side, which they did. Finally, only to switch in the last couple of years. I think they now support
Republicans.
I think they now support Trump.
Truck drivers, that would only make sense.
Yeah.
So we have the RFK clip just a minute away. And while we're loading that up, Mayor, were you surprised by RFK Jr.'s selection for the vice presidency?
Yeah, I mean, he really went way to the left. And but maybe that's where he has to go. I mean, look, was I happy about that? I was, because I don't want to see him taking votes away from Trump. I want him to take votes away from Biden. And the more I mean, he had been defined as more of a conservative than he actually is, because on the issues in which he was speaking out, he was quite conservative, and meaning the complete con operation known as the pandemic. He is and has been, and this really goes back to his family roots, and a very, very dedicated anti-communist, and that an anti-Chinese, which so many of those Democrats are afraid to be, largely because God willing, he doesn't get any money from them, right?
Yeah.
Like a lot of them do. But he also is for reparations, and he's for socialized medicine, and he's for an economic structure that would ruin us, and I mean a lot of things like that. I mean, at least that's what I believe. But he's the kind of person you could do business.
Well, here he is on
business with as a Democrat.
Yeah. Well, here's RFK Jr. on.
This was a courageous thing to say.
Joe Biden, and this happened on CNN.
Well,
talk about the threat to democracy that Trump poses. Do you really think that is an equal evil to Biden?
I mean, listen, I can make the argument that President Biden is a much worse threat to democracy. And the reason for that is President Biden is the first candidate in history, the first president in history that has used the federal agencies to censor political speech, so to censor his opponent. I can say that because I just won a case in the Federal Court of Appeals and now before the Supreme Court. It shows that he started censoring not just me. 37 hours after he took the oath of office, he was censoring me. No president in the country has ever done that. The greatest threat to democracy is not somebody who questions election returns, but a president of the United States who used the power of his office to force the social media companies, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, to open a portal and give access to that portal to the FBI, to the CIA, to the IRS, to CISA, to NIH, to censor his political critics. President Biden, for the first president in history, to use his power over the Secret Service to deny Secret Service protection to one of his political opponents for political reasons. He's weaponizing the federal agencies. Those are really critical threats to democracy.
Could not have made CNN very happy, huh?
Did you see her face?
I mean, that is, I don't see how you can vote for a president that is trampled in the way that he did on the First Amendment and has damaged democracy much more than Donald Trump. Now, the reality is that Donald Trump, I don't see where the heck he trampled democracy.
Anyway, yeah.
What people are, I mean, the people.
He loves him.
Well, I talk to a lot of people, and you do, about Donald Trump,
yeah,
including the people who don't like him, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes they come up and call me names and stuff like that. So they don't like him because of the things that he says. It's very, very rare that there's something he does that they don't like. Like, how could you not like the Abraham Accords? I mean, where did he take away democracy from anybody? He didn't prosecute Hillary Clinton.
I was going to say.
He prosecuted his opponents.
And knowing how they play, maybe he should have.
Maybe
knowing how they play.
Maybe he looks back now. Maybe he looks back now and says, I should have listened to Giuliani. I mean, I wouldn't have prosecuted all of them either. I don't think, and I would have prosecuted them very reluctantly. I don't like the idea of establishing, we're going to prosecute I think it's a terrible thing. But I thought her crimes were egregious. I thought her crimes were similar to the fixing of the election. And I really do think If we had been tougher, we might not have had the fixing of the election. And they might have been, and if we had put people like Comey in jail and McCabe in jail, who definitely belonged in jail, maybe we wouldn't have had the cover up of the hard drive. They'd have been scared, but there was no reason to be scared of anything.
Yeah. After
I mean, why be scared? People in New York should know that the things that you're doing to Trump. I mean, this judge has now issued a gag order. You want to talk about the First Amendment and just trampling it, taking it and ripping it up?
Yeah.
He's now protecting his political activist daughter so that she can make a lot of money on this case. I mean, this guy's a real scumbag. And he's getting all this, don't go after the daughter. Like she's a 3-year-old or something. Don't go after the daughter. The daughter is a political activist that owns a company called Authentic Campaign. She is making lots of moolah. That's called money. And she's making it by supporting a lefty communist type candidates like Biden and Harris. And how about the biggest liar in recent American history, Shifty Shiv? And she puts out things, opportunistic attacks on Trump based on things that happened in her father's case. And let's see, she represents and gets big money from the Democratic majority PAC. She also gets big money from the Democrat Attorney General's Association. So, I mean, this is part of the conspiracy. This isn't some, sweet little innocent. This is a. Have you ever talked to any of these Democrat political activists? Boy, they're not particularly nice people. And she's making a fortune here. I mean, Judge Merchan, who is an acting Supreme Court justice for 23 years, which is I never heard of him being an acting justice for 23 years. I don't know why he's acting so much. Maybe he should do it. You know what that means? It means the politicians have got the hooks right in them. See, you don't know that our judiciary is politically controlled, do you? You probably think that our judges get appointed or elected in some legitimate way, right? Well, they don't. There are 5 counties in New York. 4 of them are controlled, like East Berlin was controlled by the Communist Party, by the Democratic Party, and a certain number of their county leaders, that's what they're called, bosses is the other thing we call them, have gone to jail. Not as many as when I was a prosecutor, but they're not exactly the most upstanding members of society. They pick the judges. The political bosses pick the judges because the lowest court is the civil and criminal court. The mayor appoints the criminal court. I appointed tough people to that job, not the kind of people that Adams is appointing. And I put them through I'd like to know if Adams interviews them. I interviewed them for a minimum of a half hour and sometimes longer because I wanted to make sure that I had tough guys there who were going to protect, and women that were going to protect my people, whether they were Republicans or Democrats. And in those days, we had some really, really good, tough Democrats. That went away. Even I don't think Bloomberg really particularly did that. Bloomberg was more cocktail party, bar association, who always find conservatives unqualified and that sort of thing. But so the judiciary has deteriorated quite a bit, and that's why you see all these criminals being set free, and 2 hours later raping or killing somebody. So the reality is that the judges are appointed by the political hacks. At least the 2 that we're talking about. This guy was appointed, put there originally by, I don't know if it was Bloomberg or de Blasio. He had to be restored by de Blasio, which means the machine had to say, God bless him. And the machine keeps his job for him because he hasn't been elected. Nor have they picked him as a candidate. So he's not like on the hook. They got him like a little fish right on the hook. Meanwhile, he's got a daughter making a fortune as a out of control political activist, spreading all kinds of lies about Trump, and some of which he digs out of his case. And this is not a conflict. I mean, it's not a conflict. She is a vicious enemy of the guy that's whose life is in front of him for decision. In a case in which, if you had any sense of ethics, you would say everybody should be purer than Caesar's wife. I don't know how pure Caesar's wife was, but all these people, I mean, it's one after the other. You think of who they pick for this. First, they've got this judge whose daughter's making a fortune doing taking advantage of Trump derangement syndrome and attacking him for Schiff, attacking him for Biden, attacking him, I mean, working for Biden, when the very allegation is that these cases really aren't real cases. They're part of a conspiracy hatched by the White House to destroy his chance of being president, evidenced by the meetings that Wade would have there that they don't want to release. And nobody, including the make-believe honest judge in Georgia, has ordered the release of the transcripts or memorandums of those meetings. So Judge Mershon is horribly conflicted by his daughter. And then he issues a gag order and says Trump can't talk about her. What? The woman is attacking him every day. He can't defend himself because it's the judge's daughter. What is she? A member of the Politburo? And then you look at the rest of them. They don't have a single straight DA, anywhere near this thing. Bragg, Soros multi-million-dollar plant. Fannie the Hoe. Need I say anything about Fannie the Hoe? And then Smith, who the Supreme Court has an opinion, 9-0, telling you every reason why he shouldn't be on this case because he framed another man. I mean, if I were looking for a guy to frame Trump, this is the guy I pick. Of course, he did it before. So, I mean, this is as clear as a nose on your face.
So the judge's daughter is allowed to make money off of
Banging Trump
and fundraising emails and all sorts of things, yet the president is barred by this judge to even criticize her.
Don't say anything about Bragg either.
They talk about
I don't understand how you can't say anything about your prosecutor. They used to say all sorts of things about me.
This is almost worse than Soviet Russia. I don't think they didn't lay it out there so clear.
Why can't you criticize your prosecutor?
Yeah, this is America.
I mean, suppose you are innocent and you are being you can't make that case to the public. I mean, when he gets acquitted afterwards, if he doesn't defend his reputation now, he'll have no reputation left. And he's innocent. I mean, these are not crimes. This thing he's being prosecuted for, not only isn't it a crime, but the one they try to squeeze in is a federal crime that Bragg has no right to bring, and that the U.S. attorney refused to bring this case. It's so weak.
Yeah. What would be the state's compelling interest in blocking or in restricting the president's, I don't know if this would be a First Amendment right, but in restricting his speech.
So they want to be able to bang the living daylights out of him constantly, and he can't respond. He can't respond. Now they're going after him for selling Bibles with
Lee. Our friend Lee Greenwood.
Look, the way I look at it, it's a lot better than telling little kids not to put religious symbols on eggs. If he's not the first person to promote Bibles, and if he attaching his name to a Bible gets it in the hands of people,
Of more people.
that's a good thing. It's a lot better than the poor kid that wanted to put a little cross on an egg, and the mother said, "You better not do that. We'll get thrown out of the White House today, or maybe we'll be put in with the J6 people." Who knows? I mean, these people are real serious. I mean, they look at what they're doing to the people who protested abortion. They're putting them away for 20 and 40 years. No violence. As you might know, New York is such a disaster under the Democratic dictatorship that we're losing population like crazy. And I asked Ted this already, so he knows the answer. But there are 5 boroughs in New York, 5 counties. 4 are losing population. 1 isn't. It's the only Republican county. I mean, and this stupid state votes Democrat. So Manhattan, Brooklyn, the Bronx, and Queens are overwhelmingly Democrat dictatorships. This is where the bosses are: Manhattan, Brooklyn, the Bronx, and Queens. And they run their political party and tell everybody, what to do, what not to do, jobs for patronage. Gosh, I had so many creeps on the payroll. I had like 12,000 in the hospital corporation that were taking care of empty beds. And you can't believe how crooked these people are. You can't believe how crooked New York is, Philadelphia. They also, if you look carefully, they pick those places to fix the election. They pick the crooked cities to fix the election.
In the important states, too. In the swing states.
They've picked the crooked DAs to bring the cases. You don't have a legitimate DA. Bragg is a legitimate DA. Fannie the Hoe is a legitimate DA. I mean, they're ignoring everything about her, including the fact that she said under oath that she took her campaign cash. And nobody cares. Nobody cares. If I had taken 2 pennies of my campaign cash, or that they put me in irons like my friend Navarro. Go back, listen, go get the transcript. She says under oath, I took the campaign cash from my campaign. Crime, felony.
That's what it sounds like to me.
Oh, by the way, the only county that is not losing people is the Republican county, Staten Island. Manhattan.
What county is Staten Island?
Richmond.
Richmond County.
Well, you see, it's way too complicated for people to. They have 2 different names, some of them. They have, as a county, they retain the old, where there are old Dutch names, they retain the old Dutch name. So Manhattan did not have an old Dutch name. That's, I think, an Indian name. So Manhattan's called New York County for the purposes of the state of New York. For purposes of our government, the city of New York, it's the borough of Manhattan.
Yeah.
The borough of Brooklyn is Kings County.
Yep.
The borough of Queens is Queens County, no problem.
Yeah, that's the easy one.
The borough of Staten Island is Richmond County. And the borough of the Bronx, the only one that has an article in front of it, is the Bronx.
Really?
Yeah, it has the same name.
It's the Bronx.
Queens and the Bronx have the same names. The other 3 have different names. But 4.8% of the people have left Manhattan, 5.8% of the people have left Brooklyn, 5.7% of the people have left Queens, and 7.2% of the people have left the Bronx. Keep it up, there'll be nobody there. And you want to continue to vote Democrat. What can I do? I go blue in the face. I lose my voice every year trying to tell you that you're killing yourself. Now, Mr. Hasty has become the poster boy of the reason why we have so much crime in America, and the reason why police officers get killed, and the reason why we have crash and grabs, and the reason why Los Angeles has become a crime-ridden city, and San Francisco and Philadelphia and St. Louis, a murder capital. And this one statement alone might tell you everything you need to know from this man. And this statement, you can only come up with very bad explanations for it. We could start with the fact that he is incredibly poorly educated and dumb and has no ability to even process normal, simple logic. We could say that he's a political tool and will repeat anything that he's told to say by the dictatorship of the of the party. We could say he's a true believer Marxist who believes that we got to create chaos in order to destroy the United States and put it under the one government rule of Prince Obama. But here's the statement, and can we play that? Because I can repeat it, but you got to hear this thing.
Yeah. Which one are we playing?
Oh, this is the one where he says that additional penalties
The speaker
will
of the
not
Senate.
deter crime.
Let's hear it from here we go. Carl Heastie.
Just don't believe raising penalties is ever a deterrent on crime. There's already things in current law to deal with people who assault other people.
He couldn't be more.
Just don't believe raising penalties is ever a deterrent on crime.
He doesn't believe that raising penalties will deter crime. Well, first of all, let me remind him that it's not a religion, and we don't really give a damn what he believes. It's what's true or not. And it is beyond doubt that raising penalties deters crime.
Yeah.
How about as simple as this? This is simple childhood logic. If we had raised the penalties in New York to the penalties that exist in a number of other states, the man who killed Officer Diller would have been in jail, and he would have been deterred from killing him. Because Hasty, possibly because he's stupid or ill-educated, don't know if he's a lawyer, never paid attention to that part of either criminal law or jurisprudence, which says that there are two purposes to deterrence, individual and general. General deterrence maybe is what he's allegedly complaining about, which is if people hear about a heavy sentence, a lot of them are frightened to commit those crimes. So if like this Bankman guy who looks like he's going to get 40 years, maybe that'll prevent people from, not everyone, but a certain number of people from screwing around the way he did. It is particularly useful in white-collar crimes, I will agree, general deterrence. But there's something more powerful than that called individual deterrence. Criminals and particularly violent criminals tend to be massive repeat offenders. 70%, 80%. I mean, the statistic, the most recent statistic in New York is 70% recidivism on serious crimes. So if you take the penalties that were given to Rivera and double them, or New York kept the 3 strikes and you're out, or the career criminal bill, the guy would be in jail for the rest of his life. And you tell me how he's going to kill Officer Diller if he's in jail for the rest of his life. He's not. There was another man at about the same time that Officer Diller was killed, Mr. Voles, a man who's unknown, but I do like to mention him because he should be known. The man was just a regular citizen, a very sweet man. Everything said about him quite beautifully. He lived with his, I think, father and brother. And he was just thrown on the tracks by somebody who, in any sane place, the guy had been in jail. But he was let out with no supervision. It was almost predictable that he'd kill somebody. In 40 other states, he'd have been in jail also. And with stronger penalties, increase in penalties in New York, he'd have been in jail, and you would have deterred that crime. So how do we describe Hasty? What do we say? Is he And this is what happens with the Democrat. Does he fold in with the dumb masses who just go along and get brainwashed, or is he a brainwasher? Which is he? I mean, I don't know, but whatever he is, he shouldn't be the speaker of that of our assembly. My gosh, what the heck is going to happen to us? So now I told you that we're going to end by showing you how the wonderful the wonderful thought that Mrs. Diller had, that something has to be done to stop this. I mean, it hasn't lasted more than 2 days, because within the last 2 days, Governor Hochul has presented Hasty with the opportunity to make the laws against retail crime, which is out of control. Oh gosh, it's up like 60%, 70%. We've got stores leaving New York left and right. Not only that, we've got stores in which toothpaste is locked up.
Just happened to me the other day.
Now, what does that tell you? I mean, among other things, that tells you a place is really dangerous. The only I used to see that in South American cities where I was there to reduce crime because they were third world cities. I don't remember toothpaste ever being locked up in an American city.
It almost doesn't make sense. It's almost.
Well, I mean, it tells you how dangerous. I mean,
Yeah.
Whether it's an overreaction or not, it sure yells out to you, get the hell out of this city. Right? This isn't a place to bring up your kids where they have to lock up toothpaste.
Yeah, right. What message does that send to tourists? This happened to me right outside in Times Square, Mayor. Right outside.
Tell us.
Yeah, I know. What message does it send to people visiting New York when they come here? And one of the first things they see is walking into a Duane Reade, which is like a CVS, and everything, including toothpaste, is locked up. You got to get somebody to unlock the deodorant for you. What message is it?
He says this is a very dangerous city. And whether it is or it is not an overreaction, it has its effect in driving people out of the city. And it plays right into that. What right here? This is the exit rates.
There we go. Yeah.
I mean, there can be nobody around to pay the bills here. People leaving are the people that pay the taxes. People that are staying are the ones that Adams keeps increasing the amount of money he gives them not to work. And they've also did away with my workfare program. They did that. I think they did that sometime during Bloomberg. That was a great program. Wow. I have people coming up to me now, 20 years later, thanking me for it. I mean, like really legit people who straighten themselves out as a result of it. So a gentleman named Kenneth Gordon, who runs a very, very, very good haberdasher, Rothman. It's one of New York's, more traditional ones. I'd say it's a middle level one. It's not like crazy expensive, and it's not like cheap, and has great clothes. He basically said about Hasty, he's completely out of touch. He has no idea of what we're going through. I mean, I don't imagine Rothman lasts another year. They're all leaving. Sometimes they have like a theft a day. Something gets robbed every day. I mean, we're talking about millions of dollars worth of stuff that's robbed. So they wanted to increase the penalties. Well, Hasty must really believe this. He said, doesn't help to increase. Doesn't help to increase the penalty. Where did we find these people? Is it the Marxist education in New York? Is it the teachers union being a communist organization and we taught them this crap? Or is it that they're stupid and they like Biden is stupid and he just would repeat, like if he were Compass Menace now and with his 4 brain cells instead of 1, he would just repeat what Hasty said. He would think that was cute.
Yeah.
He would say, "Oh, I don't believe that increased penalties deters crime." And then you'd point out to him why that was stupid, and he would just look dumb. But that if you take that statement and you start thinking about it, this is at the core of what these communists have done, and this is all in Democrat cities. And when they say, don't politicize the death of the police officer, if we don't politicize it, lots of other police officers are going to die. We damn well better politicize it because it is political. Cop is dead only because of the Democrat Party, the party of slavery. The Republicans have nothing to say in this state. Nothing. Zero. And the few that do say things kind of make deals with them. So, we got a few corrupt ones of our own. And they just work with them. Well, we have an eclipse coming up, and I'm all excited about it. I was going to spend time on it tonight, but I'm going to spend time on it tomorrow night. But I do want to tell you a few things about it so that you have some time to get yourself ready. Is that America that I have there? Let's see. I want to show you America for a minute, if you don't mind. You never mind seeing America, right? Who could ever mind seeing America? It's such a great country.
Push the push that. Do us a favor, Mayor. Can you push the projector back? The actual device.
Well, would you like me to do this? If I push this out more?
Yeah, but I know that the table space, yeah, if possible.
Okay. How's that?
Good, better, yeah.
I can see there that this is the total eclipse that's coming on April 8th, and it's going to start all the way down there. Going to start all the way down there, like on the other side of Mexico, on the western side of Mexico. It's going to come through Mexico. One of the best places to see it, by the way, is Texas. You can see it goes through Texas, then a whole bunch of other states, and then it's going to come up into New York, northwestern New York, and it's going to go through New Hampshire, where Ted, Dr. Maria, and I are going to be in the dark doing my 3:00 show in the dark. Now, some people like to think I do it in the dark all the time, but I don't. And we are getting ready. We're getting the right cameras. Here's what I want to say now, and tomorrow I'm going to be on with more detailed information. Do not go out when the partial eclipse is going on, and that can be all the way in New York City, by the way, because what I'm showing you there is where the lights go out. That's called the area of totality, where the sun is covered.
That's where you want to be for this.
Well, that's where you want to be if you want to see total darkness.
Yes.
In that little, you see where? Let's look at Cleveland. Cleveland stands out.
Cleveland's right
So
there.
if you look at the southern line there, and look at the northern line. In between those lines, there will be for about 3 to 4 minutes, somewhere around 3 to 4 o'clock next Monday, total complete darkness. The moon will have covered the sun.
If we had a boat, we'd be on Lake Erie.
Now, to the north of that and to the south of that, for quite a distance, including well into New York City, there'll be 90 and 80% eclipses, partial eclipses. Now, I'm going to check into this, and we'll have Dr. Maria on tomorrow, even though she's in New Hampshire right now. In those areas, you still have to be careful to not look at the sun without glasses on. So if you want to look at the sun, partial eclipse, whether you're in the area of the what they call totality, where it's going to go dark, or you're within a couple of 100 miles of it, you've got to get glasses that are marked iOS, and then it has a bunch of names after, a bunch of numbers after it. But you got to make sure you get authorized glasses. Don't get crap, because you could get permanent eye damage from this. This is no joke. And don't try to do it yourself. They have all these instructions where you take a box and you put a little hole here, and you put a little hole there, and you put a hole there, you put a hole there, you put all these holes. You probably put them in the wrong place, and you go blind. So just these things, you can get them for nothing, and you can get them on Amazon for like $6. It's not exact, and we got them. We got a bunch of them already. I'll show them to you tomorrow. We got a bunch of them already, and you got to wear them. Now, if you don't have them and you have to go out, don't look at the sun. In other words, if you can resist not looking to the sun, it's not going to bother you. And of course, the further away you are, the less damage. But New York City will have a partial eclipse, and it's kind of interesting to look at. You're going to want to see it. Now, if you want to photograph it, and most people like to do that with their camera, you've got to get yourself a filter, which again is about $6. And I'll show you how to do it. You just put it on the outside of your camera. You don't now you don't need the glasses if you're looking through the camera.
Yeah.
Now, here's the weirdest thing of all. If you are in the area of totality, the minute it becomes total, you don't need anything. You take your glasses off.
And how long will that be?
3 minutes. So you better get them back on.
And so how will you know when to get them back on?
Well, as soon as it gets light again. See a little light, boom, you put them right back on. But it's worth taking them off because if you try to photograph it with the lenses on, you'll get nothing.
Yeah.
Because you do get something out of the totality. I don't know exactly what you get.
We're going to videotape it too.
Yeah. We're going
The
to
whole thing.
we're going to use a couple of iPhones. We're going to use a binocular, Celestron binoculars, and we may or may not use our Panasonic camera.
The DSLRs.
Yeah. Well, we actually have a mirrorless. We have DSLR. There are two types of cameras: DSLR and mirror. And then they make a smaller version of DSLR called mirrorless, which now probably outsells DSLR about 3 to 1.
And of course, you'll be live on the radio.
I'll be live on the
covering
radio,
this event,
and I'll be broadcasting in the dark, which I am accused of doing a lot.
Well, Mayor,
by very mean-spirited supporters of Joe Nutsafagan.
Well, Mayor, just some more news. We have an international audience.
You have an egg. I want to put a religious symbol on one and stick it up. No.
Yeah, what are you, some sort of terrorist or something?
See, can I just show you something back here? I don't know. Can you see back here?
Yeah, a little bit.
Can you see my religious books back there?
Yes.
I want them to see it so they come and arrest me.
Oh, geez. Yeah, you got
Gospels. There's the book of Gospels. There's the Missal, the Roman Catholic Missal. I actually have the Book of Common Prayer, which is the Missal of the Anglican Church, right there.
So, someday these may be banned in America.
The Book of Common Prayer. I don't know if people have that. Yeah. See the Roman Missal, right?
There it is.
Roman Missal, Book of Gospel.
First row. Bottom row, right? Easy to access. You grab that. Yeah.
Some are in Latin, some are in English. What's that one there? That's
kind of going over the bookshelf here, but I'll take this moment to just
another missal. The version of the missal. And the Book of Common Prayer, which is the entire Anglican liturgy, which is very much like the Roman Catholic liturgy, very similar, particularly to the ancient Roman Catholic liturgy before the changes were made. And I would like to confess, because I am looking at a picture of the crook on right now, the Attorney General. I'd like to confess to the Attorney General that I do enjoy the Latin Mass, which probably is the biggest thing they have on me, as opposed to the phony frame ups.
Well,
and I did write several religious symbols yesterday when I was in church. I drew a little cross, and very, very bad, very, very bad.
Well, just
I'm offending our communist masters.
Well, while we've been on our live stream tonight, a 7.5 magnitude earthquake hit Taiwan, and tsunami warnings have been issued for Japan and the Philippines. Just in case, something to follow, to see what happens with that in terms of aftershocks and, of course, potential tsunamis. And we have an international audience, so There might be some people out there that.
So we are
don't know.
tomorrow. We are going to spend a little time on the eclipse and get you ready for it. And we're going to do a special on America's Mayor Confidential on the eclipse.
Preparing and what
So
you'll
you
need
can
to
have, and
prepare.
we'll probably get it done on Thursday. So you have plenty of time to get what you need. Now, it is recommended, and we're probably not going to follow the recommendation only because we want to have something to keep. It is recommended if it's your first eclipse, not to do any of that photographing. Just enjoy it. Because, you know, it's going to take time from
fiddling
your
with
precious 3 minutes.
Yeah.
So I am going to try to set them up automatically. We are going to try
To have it going?
have 3 or 4 tripods
Just ready to go.
and just have them on. And then Ted and I and Maria and I
Maybe we
think
should have
Maria's son Eric is coming with us.
We should see if Justine or somebody wants to go.
Anybody who wants to come. And we'll be outdoors. Hopefully it isn't going to rain.
And we're gonna have you on the radio,
And
we're gonna have video, we're gonna have pictures. There's gonna be a lot of moving parts. We're not missing this event, and you'll want to tune in to WABC.
And then we'll figure out where we can go at night to do our show at night and show a lot of it.
It'll be fun.
And also,
So much looking forward.
also
to this.
we'll give you on the confidential, we'll give you an explanation that, you know, without getting into because I can't get into all the all that stuff because I don't understand it, but I can still give a pretty good explanation of what's going on. And I have to tell you, if you contemplate it, it's going to tell you, this whole global warming carbon thing is one big con job. And we'll show you. So let's say a prayer for the Diller family, for the police officers that we've lost. Let's remind you to make your donation to Tunnels to Towers. This is a good time to do it. The $11 a month. You might at the same time help us out. balanceofnature.com/Rudy and mypillows.com/Rudy. It'll keep our show going. And we'll be back tomorrow night. We'll be on at 3 tomorrow, WABCradio.com. And go get the app. Just go get the app and you can have it all the time. It's a free app. Just go app, WABC app. I got it for a few people over the weekend who were anxious, who were here from Oklahoma. And told them that they're one of the big places for, in fact, they were people that were interested in the eclipse. They are going to go to a certain place where they can watch the eclipse. And then we'll be here on X tomorrow night at 8. And we'll have plenty to discuss as we get closer and closer to deciding our future. God bless America. Is to bring to bear the principle of common sense and rational discussion to the issues of our day. America was created at a time of great turmoil, tremendous disagreements, anger, hatred. There was a book written in 1776 that guided much of the discipline of thinking that brought to us the discovery of our freedoms, of our God-given freedoms. It was Thomas Paine's Common Sense, written in 1776, one of the first American bestsellers, in which Thomas Paine explained, by rational principles, the reason why these small colonies felt the necessity to separate from the Kingdom of Great Britain and the King of England. He explained their inherent desire for liberty, for freedom, freedom of religion, freedom of speech, the ability to select the people who govern them. And he explained it in ways that were understandable to all the people, not just the elite. Because the desire for freedom is universal. The desire for freedom adheres in the human mind, and it is part of the human soul. This is exactly the time we should consult our history. Look at what we've done in the past and see if we can't use it to help us now. We understand that our founders created the greatest country in the history of the world, the greatest democracy, the freest country, a country that has taken more people out of poverty than any country ever. All of us are so fortunate to be Americans. But a great deal of the reason for America's constant ability to self-improve is because we're able to reason, we're able to talk, we're able to analyze,